I heard my grandmother say, some people want to be big when little has them wrapped up. That person is Al Sharpton. In Al Sharpton's quest to be a big man, he messed up, got himself hooked up with the wrong people, and now he has to be a snitch for life. And Al Sharpton really wants to be taken serious. But how can you take a person his age serious that takes a picture like this? People are now on to Al Sharpton. I mean, he's lost his flavor. The family of Walter Scott told Sharpton, hey, you keep away. Because people know that when Al Sharpton shows up, nothing is going to happen. He was heckled when he showed up in Del Rio, Texas. Now, a long time ago, Al used to be a champion for black people. But something happened to Al. Somebody got to Al. Now, Al is a champion for all people. You know, when Al got in trouble with the mob and the feds had to bail him out, well, now you got to work for the feds forever. Because if you don't, well, you will lose your protection. And you know the mob is waiting for you. Al's troubles started in the 80s. He used to be a tour manager for James Brown. So I guess Al wanted to be a big man, like Mr. James Brown, his idol. And he decided to get into the dope game. Well, the snitch, Al, when he got hemmed up, he gave everybody up. And then wanted to lie and say, oh, no, that's not what happened. I'm not no snitch. I'm not a rat. I'm a cat. I'm a rat catcher, is what he said. Mighty funny he was not talking this type of trash at the time. But he was afraid that they were going to kill him, so he says. So I noticed that since Al has this protection with him, well, now he's talking big stuff. Now, I guess these two guys were his bodyguard back in the game because they sure look like the same person in this picture right here. To me, Al Sharpton has always been a little weasel, a little rat, waiting for his opportunity. And everything that Al Sharpton has said about his involvement with the mob and the outcome has all been a lie. It's all been proven to be a lie. The Reverend Al Sharpton has served as an outspoken civil rights activist, presidential nominee, television host, and, if a new report is to be believed, an informant to the FBI. According to a lengthy report by website The Smoking Gun, Sharpton, then 69, served as confidential informant number 7 during the 1980s, playing a prominent role collecting information on New York City's most prolific mobsters. Sharpton has denied the claims. Here is a fact check written by Ann Brown. Did Al Sharpton spy and become an FBI informant to entrap boxing promoter Don King? Civil rights activist and Baptist preacher Al Sharpton was not only protesting the government to end discriminatory practices, but also working for the government as an FBI informant in the 1980s. This came to light in 2014 when unsealed FBI documents finally forced Sharpton to admit his role working as a spy. During his efforts for the FBI, Sharpton worked to bring down famed and flamboyant boxer promoter Don King. Sharpton also helped the intelligence agency get the dirt on mob-connected music executives and some top mafia crime figures. While Sharpton admitted his undercover role, there is still debate as to how he became an FBI informant. According to some reports, Sharpton became a rat to save himself after being implicated in a federal drug sting. The FBI flipped Sharpton after agents confronted him with a surveillance video showing him discussing cocaine with an undercover agent. The Smoking Gun reported in 2014. The panicked Reverend agreed on the spot to cooperate with federal agents. He became a paid undercover informant. But Sharpton said that an FBI sting did not nab him. When he decided to speak openly about his years as an informant at a 2014 National Action Network annual convention, he said he went to the authorities to protect himself from mobbed-up music executives who he claimed were trying to kill him. Sharpton said that he first contacted the FBI in early 1984 after his life was threatened by Salvatore Pisello, a mafia-wise guy with music industry connections. Pisello was upset that Sharpton had threatened to stage boycott to demonstrate unless black promoters got a piece of the upcoming Victory Tour by Michael Jackson. However, FBI documents show that Sharpton began cooperating with the FBI in mid-1983, prior to the threat from Pisello, when Stephon Clark was murdered. And I saw Al show up. I said, nothing is going to happen. There will be no justice for Stephon Clark. Here we are today. Still no justice for Stephon Clark. Al Sharpton attempted to defend himself being a FBI informant, by saying that I'm not a mobster. I am a preacher. Hey, I've heard people ask this question. Where is Al Sharpton's church? Where is your church? I have yet to hear you preach one sermon. I've heard you give speeches, but never a sermon. And no, you are not a preacher. You just like to run your mouth.
Al and I have gone out drinking together, but he uses it on his hair. You're not smiling tonight. No sense of humor tonight. Gentlemen, let me go first to Al. On last night's show, you had the audacity to praise Louis Farrakhan and call Roy Innis a bigot.
Old two-faced Al. Once upon a time, he was all right with Louis Farrakhan, but now he is enemies with the minister.
Reverend, would you explain to Roy Innis why he's a bigot?
Well, I would not explain to Roy why he's a bigot. I'll explain to your audience. I was a person that had respect for Mr. Innis. Mr. Innis, in the late 60s, was a nationalist leader in this community. And many of the things that I praise Farrakhan for now, in terms of self-help programs and in terms of having integrity, Mr. Ennis represented. But in this transitional stage, Mr. Ennis went from a man who would challenge a Bob Abrams to a man who would curtail and kowtow and back down to a Bob Abrams. Just 2 years ago, Mr. Ennis and I were friends when a lot of ex-corps members were making allegations. But when one bum, who he knew was a bum, tried to turn on us, Roy, in his assignment, embraced them. Because anything that goes against our community, whether it's Bork, whether it's Bernard Getz, whether it's Tawana Brawley, Roy Ennis takes the other side. I feel that if Mr. Abrams, who has an active investigation on Roy, who Roy has said to me is using a Jewish plot against him, if Mr. Abrams and the IRS can make you get on your knees, Roy, fine. That's your problem. You should shut up and let those of us that have enough guts to stand up and fight, stand up and fight.
What a difference a day makes. That was an old Al Sharpton. But now the new Al Sharpton, what does he stand up for? Unless it's something that makes national news, Al is nowhere to be found. I wonder, has Al ever looked back on this particular interview and thinks about the things that he said then opposed to the things he is saying now? There is no comparison.
Because there's some of us that investigations and indictments and the rest don't mean anything to. How you can go from a critic of Bob Abrams to an apologist of Bob Abrams makes you suspect at best and a sellout in fact.
The old pot calling the kettle black. Who can you call suspect? Have you been suspect from day one? And you have proven yourself to be a sellout.
Roy, how does it feel to be classified as a bigot after a lifetime of fighting for civil rights?
I will say that I'm probably one of the...
Now, please zip it. We're going to let everyone talk tonight, and that's what the loudmouths are for. Let these guys talk first. Go ahead.
I'm one of the few non-bigoted black leaders around, I will say. Let me state now, let's deal with the facts. Let's go to the record. Tonight, we want to deal with the records and the facts.
Please do it.
On this program, your program, you heard me, you have me on tape, defending this man. Recently, even after the shenanigans with him and the other soldiers.
That's a lot of crap.
Now, look, brother, you have your time.
All Al Sharpton has is a big mouth. Usually, when you're having a heated discussion with someone and they cut you off, want to overtalk you, is because they don't want you to reveal the truth about them. And the truth about Al Sharpton is he's nothing but a cream puff. That's the type of friend Al Sharpton is. I mean, you go out your way for him, try to help him, and then he turns around and stabs you in the back. Al Sharpton is just a liar. When he said that the mob wanted to kill him, that was in 1984. But he started working with the feds in 1983. You just cannot trust anything that Al Sharpton says. But let's take a look back at those interviews.
De Blasio has his own unique take on his days as the government's confidential informant number 7.
In my own mind, I was not an informant. I was cooperating with investigations.
Sharpton has been dogged for years by reports that he was an FBI informant, helping the government go after boxing promoter Don King and music executives. Now we learn he also went after mobsters, including the legendary Vincent the Chin Gigante, the so-called Oddfather who paraded around in his bathrobe and pajamas. Though he has ducked and dodged questions about whether he wore a wire for the Fed, that wasn't possible today since a batch of government documents were made public.
The conversations were recorded.
And there's also the issue of how he became an informant. Some say he was pressured into it after he was caught in a drug sting. This HBO undercover sting video that aired in 2002 shows Sharpton with a cowboy hat pulled down over his bouffant hairdo. Sharpton appears to nod when an agent offers him a cut from future drug sales. But now Sharpton claims he went to the feds for protection from threats from mob-connected music executives and was asked to rat out the bad guys.
They were threatening to kill me.
And while the feds say his information helped bring down guys like Gigante, Sharpton says he didn't know how his information was being used.
I have never met any of these guys. The guy with the pajamas, I don't walk around with guys that walk outside, but I never met these guys.
The biggest and the main reason why I don't trust Al Sharpton is because he claims to be a preacher. And one thing I know about preachers ain't supposed to lie.